What is good, everybody, man? Let me know if y'all can hear me in the chat. We got a lot to talk about. We only got 3 games to talk about, but I got a feeling this is going to be a fairly longer show to discuss 3 games. We had 2 big semifinal games that set up a Dakota marker rematch in the FCS National Championship. We have North Dakota State going for their 10th FCS national title. They're 10-0 in the game. And we had South Dakota State, who was going for their first ever FCS national championship. And they're looking to rebound from that spring season where they were a play away from being FCS national champions. And then, of course, the HBCU national champions were crowned in North Carolina Central in a huge I don't listen, I know there's some people who hate the word upset. When you're a 16-point underdog, man, it's an upset. But Central made a statement this weekend with an overtime victory over Jackson State to push the MEAC's record in the Celebration Bowl to 6-1, and they claimed their first Celebration Bowl victory in school history, bouncing back as being the only MEAC team to lose in that game back to back 10-9 to Grambling back in the day, man. It was an outstanding weekend of college football, man. I just want to say on Friday night, if you looked at Twitter, the Incarnate Word North Dakota State game was one of the top trending things on Twitter. The Celebration Bowl set off a whole chain reaction on social media as it was obviously going to do. Then South Dakota State made an absolute statement by smacking Montana State in dominant fashion. I can't wait to talk about that. Just so y'all know what's coming down the pipeline, I do have something coming. I'm talking to the SID over at North Carolina Central. Me and Coach Fred on the Coach's Corner this week will most likely have a 2-part guest with Matt Leone, the offensive coordinator for Central, coming back on the show, and potentially having head coach Trey Oliver on the show to talk about him leading his team to the Celebration Bowl championship. So Matt Leone, Trey Oliver, possibly on the show later this week. And also Wednesday is early signing day. Everyone knows me and Scotty did the first ever full day HBCU FCS live stream on National Signing Day last year in February. We're doing it again. We'll be streaming from probably about 9-10 in the morning all the way into the later hours of the day, breaking commitments. I'm in talks with a few recruits to potentially announce commitments on the show. And we are going to have a full day live stream on Wednesday to bring y'all all the FCS, HBCU commitments, breaking news on early signing day right here on my channel and his channel over there on Off Script. So doing it big, man. We did it last year. We're going to keep it going. No one else does it this big in FCS football. And I want to make sure you guys get firsthand news right here on the Blue Bloods. But so much to talk about, man. And shout out to my guy Kobe, the Blitz City podcast. He said he can't stand these Dakota schools. And let's get into David's question. Let's just jump right into it. North Dakota State 35-32 win over Incarnate Word, overcame a 16-point first half deficit. Now, the viral sensation that was the missed fumble, where Kobe Johnson looked like he fumbled the football, looked like a clear Incarnate Word recovery. They reviewed it, gave it back to North Dakota State, and that pretty much ended the game. I mean, Incarnate Word would have got the ball inside, I believe, North Dakota State's 40 with a chance to win the game. Now, I did reach out to some people and get some clarification on what the actual call was. So there was a lot of confusion that the refs did not call it a fumble. They actually did call it a fumble in the review. The issue is that the Incarnate Word player and the North Dakota State player were fighting over the football on the replay. And according to the rules, there has to be a clear, undisputed recovery to reverse a non-fumble call. And so that was the holdup, is that it was a fumble. It was ruled a North Dakota State fumble. There just was not a clear, immediate recovery by Incarnate Word, which is why the ball went back to North Dakota State at the end of the day. And so that was the clarification that I got from the MVFC people about what happened on that play. They did call it a fumble. It was just there wasn't a clear immediate recovery for Incarnate Word due to, I believe it was Caleb Culp and one of the North Dakota State fullbacks or something fighting over the football, and the fact that they couldn't tell who came up with the ball immediately is why they decided to give the football back to North Dakota State. And I will say there's a lot of misconceptions, and I think there was even one of the Celebration Bowl where, and we all know the play I'm talking about, where everyone says one play cost the team a game, and yes, there one play could have a great impact, but there was so many people, um, there were so many plays, events in all these games that made the outcome what it was. I think it's kind of lazy analysis to boil it down all into one play. But for North Dakota State Incarnate Word, Lindsey Scott put on a show early, man. They Incarnate Word was driving up and down the field. They shut down North Dakota State's offense early. It was 16 to nothing in the first quarter, and it looked like Incarnate Word had a chance to run away with this game. What it came down to is last weekend, it was the same thing that happened. Statistically, Incarnate Word should have run away with this game. But what happened was I'm telling you, turnovers cost you the game in big situations, especially in the semifinals late in the playoffs. Incarnate Word won last week because they forced 4 turnovers on Sac State, and Sac State didn't force any turnovers for them. And North Dakota State forcing 4 turnovers cost Incarnate Word this game. It was 16 nothing. Incarnate Word had a chance to get the football back. They muff a punt. The punt hits the punt returner because he slips. North Dakota State gets the ball inside the red zone. And then Lindsey Scott's first interception was I don't know what Darian Chafin was doing. He's been a hell of a receiver all year. Lindsey Scott does throw the ball inside. It's kind of a duck, but it just looked like Darian Chafin never fought to get back inside his DB to get to the football and at least try to break it up. And Dawson Weber was able to come from his safety spot and pick the football off. I don't understand one what he saw. I don't understand why he didn't look off the safety because Dawson Weber is that type is a good enough safety to make that play 10 times out of 10. It just I don't know what he was looking at. And then at the end of the game, I still don't understand it. Incarnate Word's running a 2-minute drill. They're eating North Dakota State up underneath. North Dakota State has 2 deep safeties. They're playing back on the wide receivers. They're giving everything underneath. You still have a timeout. This clock stops after a first down. The fact that Lindsey Scott gets out of the pocket doesn't either one throw the ball the way he had his check down, and I believe it was Marcus Cooper underneath who probably could have got to the first down and at least stopped the clock. He just threw it up and Dawson Weber was there. It was in double coverage, and it was just a jump ball. And Dawson Weber had the leverage underneath and made the play to win the game. I think Lindsey Scott. I think he got a little bit too aggressive late. He made a bad decision. And North Dakota State's a team where if you make bad decisions, they make you pay, especially in the Fargo Dome. And for North Dakota State, they ran the football exactly how I thought they were, especially toward the end of the game. They put up 328 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. They averaged 6.8 yards per carry. Kobe Johnson is putting on one of his best stretches of performances I think he's had in his North Dakota State career. He had a big performance in the national championship game last year, had a huge explosive run against Montana State. 3 touchdowns for him, 136 and 9 yards per carry for Kobe Johnson, and they had no idea how to stop him. It just seemed like every time he made a cut, every time there was even just a sliver of daylight in that UIW defense, he made them pay. Cam Miller, 132, a touchdown on the ground. I will say this. The thing that worries me about North Dakota State is the lack of a passing attack because South Dakota State's defense is not Incarnate Words. It is elite. I think South Dakota State probably has the best defense in the country right now at the FCS level. There is no way North Dakota State can get away with 1 for 12 for 5 yards in the passing game. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to be able to run for 328 yards on South Dakota State. You have to give them some sort. You got to give them some sort of balance. That is going to get you absolutely destroyed. Cam Miller, 1 for 12, 5 yards is not going to cut it. You have Zach Mathis. You have some weapons on the outside. You're going to have to figure out something over these next few weeks before that national championship game to get that shored up. Because I don't think Kobe Johnson, Cam Miller, TK Marshall, potentially Tamarick Williams, if he gets healthy at the national championship game, they're not going to be able to just run for 400 yards on South Dakota State. Cam Miller's going to have to make plays, and he's my biggest question mark moving forward for North Dakota State. And that's just I don't know what else to say about it. Michael Tutsi had a huge game, 13 tackles. James Catscore keeps his big season. I do want to say though, I'm so happy for this guy because he's dealt with so much. He dealt with family tragedy at one point, and he dealt with a very, very significant injury last year that kept him out. Spencer Wagey is having an All-American type year. Now, our All-American team does drop tomorrow. I'm just going to throw it out here. Spencer Wagey's a first-team All-American. 7 total tackles, 3 for loss, had a sack and a forced fumble this weekend. There are times where he is absolutely unblockable off the edge. And he is going to be a key come January 8th against South Dakota State. And Spencer Wagey is proven why he has consistently been one of the top leaders for this North Dakota State defense. I wanted to give him a shout out because he was the guy on defense. And of course, Dawson Weber with the 2 big interceptions to keep North Dakota State in this game. Now, the other game, this was a beatdown. And I want to ask you guys, do you, I don't know if you guys have ever had that moment where you knew what was right in your gut and you got caught up a little bit in the hype and you made a bad pick. Because I picked South Dakota State to win the national championship in August. I got a little bit swept up in the Montana State hype, and South Dakota State humbled me this weekend and reminded me why I picked them in August to win the national championship. They handled Montana State like it was an FBS team playing an FCS team. It was impressive. I just still cannot believe how dominant South Dakota State was this weekend against Montana State. It was I just got to give a round of applause. I know there's been some big blowouts where Montana State with the 55-7 win and all that over William & Mary. Even though the score is 39-18, Montana State scored a little bit late. I think this was one of the more impressive performances holistically for a team that I've seen. Mark Gronikowski, 10 for 13, 2 passing touchdowns, had about 200 yards through the air. And on the ground, Isaiah Davis reminding everybody why he was an All-American running back, 158, a touchdown, averaged 10 yards per carry against Montana State. Amir Johnson had a great game too, had a big 38-yard touchdown in that game, and Mark Gronikowski putting up 52 and a touchdown on the ground as well. 281, 3 rushing touchdowns for South Dakota State. And here is what I still can't believe. We've talked on this show, and regardless of what team you root for, why you watch the show, we have talked about the explosiveness of Montana State's rushing attack all season long. They entered the game as the number 1 rushing team in the country, averaging over 7 yards per carry, 330 plus yards per game on the ground, and had almost 50 rushing touchdowns this year. That's what Montana State was bringing in. And South Dakota State came in with the number 1 rushing defense, and they showed exactly why. 52 total yards rushing, less than 1.5 yards per carry. South Dakota State put on a show, holding Isaiah Afonso to 28 yards rushing. Now, Sean Chambers did get hurt. Tommy Mellott was battling injuries late. Both of them had a rushing touchdown. But South Dakota State, it was never in doubt. It was never in doubt. And I know the box score isn't really going to show it, but Reese Winkleman and Caleb Sanders are the most dangerous defensive line duo in the country right now at the FCS level. Both of these guys are absolute animals on the inside. I mean, Caleb Sanders and Reese Winkleman, even if they didn't get the tackle, they were in the backfield every play, it felt like at some point. There were stretches where Montana State couldn't get plays off because Reese Winkleman and Caleb Sanders was blowing up the interior of that offensive line. And then on top of that, it was negative 15 degrees. And it seemed like Tommy Millott, Isaiah Afonso, it's hard to cut on ice. Well, that field was complete ice. And the fact that they were blowing up to play in the backfield, they couldn't catch their footing, and plays were just dead from the start. And then on top of that, Isaiah Stallbert, Adam Bach, Jason Freeman were all over the place at linebacker. They were unblockable up front. And even as a defensive tackle, your main job, even though it was great to get the Warren Sapps to Aaron Donalds that put up a bunch of sacks and tackles for loss and stats, the main job of a defensive tackle is to take up space, get penetration, and allow the linebackers to go make plays. There's a reason Adam Bach had 2.5 tackles for loss, a sack, 8+ tackles, Stallbird with 8+ tackles as well. It's because Reese Winkleman and Caleb Sanders were eating people alive up front. I was so impressed with how well South Dakota State played defensively, man. They proved that there was a debate on who the best defense in college football was at the FCS level. And after this weekend, there is no debate. It was South Dakota State. It was on another level this weekend. And on top of that, too, Mark Gronkowski through the air, Tucker Kraft showing why he's so valuable at the tight end spot and is probably going to be a draft pick. That first play, he got behind the Montana State defense, caught an amazing ball, slid into the end zone with the snow, 4 catches, 69 yards, a big touchdown. Jackson Yankee and Amir Johnson both were dynamic the air. Jaden Yankee only had 1 catch, but I expect him to probably be a bigger part of the offense in the national championship game. These two teams are the best 2 teams in FCS football, man. I'm so excited to see it. And I saw a wild tweet. I just want like I don't want to harp too much on it, but this just shows how little sometimes fans of other schools watch other FCS football. Someone tweeted out that this was the most boring matchup that could have happened for the FCS, and they expect this to be the lowest rated FCS national championship ever, and that no one cares about this game. You have one of the biggest rivalries in FCS football, a rematch between South Dakota State and North Dakota State, which was a 1 versus 2 matchup this year. And man, if you think it's just outrageous what people try to go out and say and just discredit. It's just I couldn't believe I really saw that tweet from somebody. Now, you already know more and everything and what they were trying to do, but they really said that this national championship was going to be boring and no one would care about it. Oh no, Ron. Oh no, it was another FCS fan. And yeah, so I think that is a little bit outrageous to say the least. So North Dakota State, South Dakota State, uh, January 8th, ABC. I'm so excited that they finally put this game back on ABC, and I'm really, really excited. Hey, I picked them, sir. So retro, I definitely picked them, and I'm really, really excited to see if they can make it 10. That's gonna be crazy. But the Celebration Bowl, we have so much to break down here. So much to break down here. The MEAC continues to dominance, and Trey Oliver in the post-game press conference talked about the disrespect he felt his team got. And man, I can't wait for y'all to call in and give me y'all's thought on this game because I still can't believe what I necessarily saw from NCCU. Now, I knew their offensive line was good. Listen, there's a reason on my um there's a real reason on my all conference team in the MEAC. They had 4 picks. Um they had 4 picks on the offensive line on my all conference team for the MEAC. I was going to let y'all know they do have a All American at the FCS level on my All American team as well. They dominated both lines of scrimmage all week, and I was a little skeptical too. I'm not going to lie. North Carolina Central won the offensive line of scrimmage and the defensive line of scrimmage. They it it was so impressive. I'm going to do a film breakdown for members on the channel. So anyone who's a member on the channel will have access to the video. I'm just going to come on and break down NCCU's offensive line play. Because if you really understand the fundamentals behind offensive line play, where you need to be, working together, gap fits, execution, communication, teamwork, man, I just it is it's going to be beautiful to watch after you see it all broken down. They abused Jackson State up front. And yes, Jackson State has some transfers. Yes, they were suspended and players only make so much of an impact. But I do think I don't know if there were players suspended that individually made, would have won the game for Jackson State. But what I think Jackson State suffered from is you had Katron Evans transfer, you had Big Country transfer, Niles was suspended. I think there was another guy who was suspended on the interior. Jackson State's biggest advantage all season long has been the depth on the defensive side of the football, specifically on the defensive line, where they can consistently rotate fresh bodies in and they have fresh bodies late in the game. They substitute so much along the defensive line. And then when you add on top of that, Jeremiah Brown getting kicked out of the game for being an absolute idiot, they had zero depth down the stretch, and North Carolina Central pushed them around and they had zero answer. They were not built to get punched in the mouth consistently like they did this weekend, and they had zero depth to answer it. They couldn't rotate fresh bodies because a lot of those fresh bodies were suspended or not eligible to play due to being in the transfer portal. And I really do want to say this. Anyone who has doubted Davius Richard has got to eat all the crow in the world, because Davius Richard came in here and absolutely put on a performance. 175 through the air, was 15 for 20, one passing touchdown, and ran for 97 yards on 22 carries and two rushing touchdowns. They just went out there and they were the better team in Atlanta on Saturday. You've got to give Latrell Collier a huge credit to 98 rushing yards, one touchdown, averaged over 6 yards per carry, and the stiff arm of Cam. I mean, he displaced the turf. I mean, the violence that he runs with is infectious, and I love to see it. And I I had him on the show last week. I need everyone in the chat to give a round of applause to my guy Matt Leone, the offensive coordinator for North Carolina Central. The game plan, the play calling was immaculate. It was immaculate. It was I am so happy for my guy Matt Leone, man. I love him, and I loved having him on the show. And the play calling that I saw from him had this weekend was amazing, man. That EJ Hicks play where they let the wide receiver throw it, the fake punt dial up, and the execution of that, the 2-point conversion on the Phillies special, and just keep and I know there's some people who, because someone texted me and said, man, they ran like the same play like 4 or 5 times and just different variations. And I'll say this, that is perfect offensive play calling. If you can run the same, if the goal of an offensive coordinator, I'll say this because Auburn did it when they went to the national championship with Nick Marshall. The goal for an offensive coordinator is to have the exact same formation and have about 5 different plays that all have the exact same look, the same motions, everything. You need to have 5 plays that all look exactly the same and do completely different things. And they consistently did it. And Jackson State could not stop the power run. They couldn't stop anything off the right side of the offensive line. Robert Mitchell and those guys on the right side of the O-line absolutely put people in the dirt. And there were times where the pulling guard, I've never seen this happen. The defensive tackle would get swept out of the play, and the pulling guard would pull sometimes and have nobody to block because they worked to the linebacker so well. There was nobody to block. It was it was flawless, man. Like chef's kiss, flawless offensive line play. And The defensive line who got cooked all week by everybody. And listen, I'll be honest, I was skeptical of the defensive line coming into this. They stood up, and I talked about it on the roundtable. There were times this year where Central didn't defend the run very well. The Delaware State game, the Campbell game, there was a few others, but then it always seemed like coming into the game where they had a major test. New Hampshire, Dylan Lobby being an All-American, but Tootin for North Carolina A&T. Who else do you want? There was another game where they shut down a big time running back. Maybe someone could correct me. There was a third game where they faced a huge All American, All Conference type running back, and they shut him down. And they came into this game, held Jackson State to 68 yards rushing, 2.7 yards per carry, and a quarterback sneak touchdown. Savion Wilkerson had 52 yards on 15 carries. That's only about 3.5 yards per carry. They didn't get any push. They won both lines of scrimmage. They beat Jackson State in sacks. Jackson State led the country in sacks. Central had 2 sacks. Jackson only got 1 sack this weekend. They averaged 6.5 yards per carry as a team. Jackson put up 2.7. They won both sides of the line of scrimmage. I don't know if that's happened all year long. You can argue for part of the Alcorn State game that happened, but for 4 quarters, Central was the most dominant team up front by far. And let's give the wide receiver some celebration. Devin Smith came into the game as one of their top wide receivers, only went for 3 catches for 13 yards. EJ Hicks had a crazy performance. He had the big play on the trick play of the 30-something yard pass play, hit the if I'm not mistaken, he was the same one that threw the Philly special. He went for 3 for 84, got behind Travis early, had that big 42-yard play to kick off the game. And then on top of that, Latrell Collier checking down was elite out of the backfield. And then on top of that, Quentin McCall with that touchdown catch. He's like the 3rd string wide receiver, and Quentin McCall is going out there and balling out. Caught it on Shiloh and Nugget. Shiloh and Nugget not be able to handle Quentin McCall, and he put up an absolute great performance, man. That was a hell of a catch in the end zone too. That could have went either way. Great ball placement by Richard too. Khalil Baker had a big game. 10 total tackles for Khalil Baker, who's going to be an All-American for us, and he was an AP All-American, was the MEAC Defensive Player of the Year. Jason Chambers had a big day. Also, Colby Warrior, and I believe it's DeAndre Brown. Both of those guys had a big game as well. For Central, give Trey Oliver credit. I mean, give Trey Oliver credit for keeping his team focused, keeping his team, because here's what's happened all year long. Everyone in the chats watched Jackson State all year long, regardless of what their team is. There's been teams, Alcorn State, Alabama State, that have came out and punched Jackson State in the mouth. But as soon as Jackson State punched them back, they weren't able to necessarily respond. And once Jackson State caught that momentum, it seemed like Jackson State started to walk away with it. When you look at that Alcorn game, it was that Travis catch late in the game, really sucked out all the momentum and things kind of got out of hand. Alabama State, that late in that game, Shador took over and they were able to walk down the field and put that game out of reach. For Central, though, every single time anyone thought Jackson State had the momentum, Richard would come and walk them down the field. Him, Latrell Collier, EJ Hicks, they would put points on the board and keep putting pressure on JSU, and they never back down. And I think teams really do take the personality of their head coach. And I still don't think, based on everything I've seen from social media, everything, I still don't think Trey Oliver's getting enough credit for what he did this weekend. He deserves so much credit. And I think an interesting fact, too, this is something I don't think a lot of people talked about, is that this is actually Trey Oliver's 2nd Celebration Bowl championship. If you don't know, this is just an interesting fact, because I love bringing facts to the table on the show. He was the outside linebackers coach and recruiting coordinator at North Carolina A&T in 2015. So Trey Oliver actually was on the winning team of the inaugural Celebration Bowl back in 2015. So I think that's an interesting tidbit, is that Trey Oliver, this stage was not new to him. man, already has won a Celebration Bowl in his career, coached in it, and played an intricate role in that as well. So this was not Trey Oliver's first go around on this, man. And so you got to give Trey Oliver a whole lot of credit. A round of applause for him. But for Jackson, I will say this. I thought I thought Shador played a solid game. I think Travis had a hell of a game outside of that one fumble where I think he got caught. I mean, listen, that dude came scot-free, put his helmet on the ball, and went out and made a play. I think those two guys get a lot of credit. Kevin Coleman had a solid game, man. I think he showed you the speed and explosiveness that he really has. And I think they both played a great game. I really do. I hate to say this, and I know my guy Josh is going to love this. I really do think on Saturday, the best team on the field won. You could say what you want on paper, man. I think in terms of just overall execution, everything like with the players missing, I think the best team on the field won on Saturday, and that was North Carolina Central. And on top of that, man, listen, I feel for Hayden Hagler. I do. I cannot imagine the feeling of being in that moment, having whole the whole game in your hands, man, and you and it came up just a little bit short, man, and everyone drops passes, and I understand it was just like, man, on that moment, on that stage, and I feel for him. I really do. I can't imagine what he's necessarily going through right now, man. So I'm hoping that all the Jack State fans uplift him and yeah, and I agree. Listen, I can see both sides, Mr. Campbell, because I can see both sides because the reason it was open is because no one thought the ball was going to him. So like I get it in that moment is that the reason you call that is because no one is expecting him to get the football and he is wide open. And it was a great call like at the end of the day. Like I get it. I understand why they called it because no one's expecting Hagler to get the ball. They didn't cover it. It was wide open. And if it's a catch, we're all talking about Bartolone being an offensive genius for calling that play. But for me, it's yeah, and MC they hit that exact same play at FAMU. It was the FAMU game. Hagler had a touchdown. But I think in that moment, just for me, how I feel about it is you gotta put the ball in your best player's hands. Like if I have a moment where it's do or die, I need a touchdown to win. I want to go to my playmakers, to guys that I trust to make the play. Hagler hasn't been that guy for them all year, and I get that it was open because of that. But for me, I don't mind the play call. I just don't love the person that they put the I don't like the guy they put it in their hands, man. Like if I'm gonna die on a hill, I need to die on the hill of Travis Hunter, Kevin Coleman, Shane Hooks, Shador Sanders, Savion Wilkerson. I need to die in the hands of my best players. My best players. I get the play call, solid play call, but I got to get the play. I got to design a play to get the ball to my playmakers' hands. Like the Packers are not drawing anything up in a game-winning situation that I mean, well, I guess so the Raiders aren't drawing anything up that's not going to Devontae Adams in that situation. The Vikings are going to Justin Jefferson. Like get it to your playmakers. And so that's how I feel about it. It's a catch 22. Hindsight's 2020. I agree, but I think multiple things can be true at once. You have to put the ball in your superstars' hands in that moment, and they didn't. And I agree with some comments. I'm not going to pull them all up. That play didn't cost them the game. I agree. Same reason I said the fumble didn't cost Incarnate Word the game. Jackson State lost that as a team. Prime was all the way right when he was talking about that in the locker room. Um, that one play never loses you the game, but he is being used as a scapegoat, and I hate to see it, man. And I don't remember if it was Kobe. Someone tweeted out that his mom reported that they were getting threats and everything. Man, be better than that. Don't be that fan, please. Don't ever be that fan. I know no one who watches the show would be that fan, but man, that is just that's why I'm saying I just couldn't imagine all the things that because I tweeted out the video, and some of the comments that I saw on the video were, I mean, uh, I'm just gonna say that I can't imagine. I'm just gonna put it like that, especially given the whole underlying part of the situation. I just couldn't imagine, man. Everyone saw what they were saying about him. I mean, I don't have to go into it, but I couldn't imagine. I really couldn't. But Dennis, we can my my thing is I want calls to be even, if anything. And there were 2 plays in the first half, and I'm cool with it. They called a late hit on Richard, and they called a late hit on Shedeur out of bounds. There was 2 for 2. But the fact that, man, I still don't I need someone to explain to me what was going on in Jeremiah Brown's head. Jer Jer Jeremiah Brown has to have some sort of answer for what he I mean, he was out there acting like just a fool, man. Consistently acting like a fool for no reason. No reason. Costing his team consistently, and he got so lucky that the refs let him get away with the cheap shot on Richard late in that game. I mean, the whistle gets blown dead. The quarterback's just standing there, and he just comes around the corner and clocks him. That's just the refs were giving him chances after chance, and I agree, he was just getting beat. Corey Bullock and Robert Mitchell and those guys were bullying Jackson State. I mean, you could tell the frustration for Jackson State late in the game. Jeremiah Brown was acting out. Travis is trying to get into a fight after he's getting pancaked and run over. It's like, man, you could tell in the moment that Jackson State was not ready to get punched in the mouth, and man, they were just being undisciplined out there. And I don't understand how they didn't call the cheap shot on Richard, because I hate to say, I mean, could y'all imagine what that would have done if it was Shedeur Sanders? Could you imagine if that was Shedeur who gets blindside hit after the whistle blew? I mean, I'll let y'all answer it, man. Everyone knows what would have happened if that was Shedeur. And I will say the replays, look, the replays are what they are, Dennis. And I will say this: it's up to the coach in college. It's up to the coach in college to call the timeout. It's not like the NFL. Um, it's not like the NFL where they got a guy who is going to signal, that is always going to be able to signal down everything. Like, and you also got to give Shedeur credit. The refs missed the call, but then refs miss fast calls like that every time, and it was a close bang bang play. It was on Shedeur to get Jack State to the line and snap it quick, Dennis. That you've got to give Shedeur credit. That is Shadeur's football IQ coming into effect. Both plays that should have been reviewed. If Trey Oliver really wanted to challenge it or review it, he should have called a timeout. And that goes back to, I guess he didn't thought his timeouts would be better served later in the game, or didn't want to waste them there just in case. But you've got to give Shedeur credit for football IQ for getting to the line and snapping it. And if really and truly, if they wanted to challenge it, Trey Oliver had to call the timeout. But hey man, hell of a season for both teams. I'm so happy for Trey Oliver. I told you guys that was my favorite interview this offseason at Media Day, was talking to Trey Oliver. And I'm really, really hoping we can make this thing work on the show. I can't wait to talk to him again. If not, I'll definitely get with them at Media Day, because I'll be there again next year. But man, hell of a season for both these squads. But North Carolina Central earned this one, man. They came out, played a hell of a game. But listen, man, we're gonna open up the call lines. 701-779-9585 is the call in number, and I'll get to y'all's comments as well if you can't call in. Get this set up. Mr. Ford, you're live. I'm glad you called in.
Hey.
I know a lot of people are going to be asking about you.
Oh, yeah, hold on. Let me turn this down. Hold on. Okay, first of all, I want to say congratulations to the North Carolina Central family, and to Coach Oliver, and to the Eagle Nation for your national championship. I also want to say congratulations to Jackson State. It's been a great year, but it's a historical year for you. This season will be talked about for many, many years. Let me say this. I want to say this to these North Carolina A&T people. You might as well swallow your pride and follow behind the Eagles because you ain't going to win in nothing. Let me tell you something. Your chancellor, your president, President Martin, and your athletic director, I think it's Earl Hilton, they have put you in a ditch. And I don't know until the alumni and the people who love that school take over, you're going to be in that ditch because you ain't going to do nothing in no CAA. You out your league. Now, everybody says there were a lot of A&T people there. And like I said, you might as well follow behind Central if you're going to follow behind a winner because you ain't going to win in nothing. Okay. The most dominant thing two things I saw yesterday. The most dominant thing I saw yesterday was that offensive line that North Carolina Central had. You had talked about that, and I saw it with my own eyes. Now, the second thing is this. I want to know how did this Trey Oliver put together a staff like that so quickly? I told them, I spoke to some people last night. They had me on last night. I see 3 potential head coaches on Trey Oliver's staff. That guy, Matt, was it Leone? The
Matt
offensive
Leone.
coordinator?
Yeah.
Okay, he's a potential head coach. The guy that's the defensive coordinator, what's his name?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Now, see, we know him in Georgia because he worked for Kirby Stewart for a couple of years. We know him. Okay, the third person I saw last night that has a head coaching potential is the offensive line coach. They were doing something I hadn't seen in a long time. Now, Blue, you know about wedge blocking. You know, wedge blocking is almost obsolete now because everybody's into the spread and with the 4 wides and 5 wide. Wedge blocking is almost gone. Them guys did a great job of wedge blocking on Jackson State last night. The run blocking, the pass blocking, that offensive line to me was the most dominant offensive line I've seen all year. On this level, man,
they're good.
That was great.
They're probably.
Did you say something, Blue?
Yeah, they're probably the best. Them or A&T are easily the 2 best offensive lines in HBCU football. They've been all year by far.
Yeah, the guy I looked him up. The guy who is the offensive line coach, he's a graduate of the University of South Carolina. He was a 4-year starter. Now I don't know how long Trey gonna keep him. Because now everybody needs a great offensive line coach. I've been hollering and fussing about that for the longest. But this guy here is going to go to the top. That offensive line coach for North Carolina Central is going to go to the top. Now let me ask you this, Blue. I don't know what is this on the internet all day about Colorado fired Deion Sanders Jr. as the media person? Have you been hearing that? It's been on the computer all day. What's going on with that?
They did. They said his brand doesn't necessarily meet the standards that they want their media brand to uphold. I mean, I knew it was coming. They weren't going to let just some random person come in there and run the media. It won't happen like that.
Yeah, because it's been on several people talked about it. I've seen some written stuff about it. That's been a trending thing all day. It's about him and what happened to him. Let me tell you something. They exposed Shiloh again. As soon as he came in the game, they went after him, and it was them people at Central know that he can hit now, but he can't cover nothing. And they went after him. You were just talking about that Brown kid. The reason he lost his composure is because of that kid. Is his name Bullock? What's that offensive tackle's name?
Yeah, Corey Bullock.
He beat that boy in the ground. You hear me? That's why he lost his composure. That offensive line, they was whipping behind. Let me tell you something. Now, y'all know how good Aubrey Miller is, right? They was headhunting him. They were looking for him. And every chance they got a chance to put a shot on him, they put a shot on him. Yeah, I saw it with my own eyes yesterday. But now, Blue, this the real thing. Listen, I've been watching the thing out there. I've seen a number of people. Some people going pro of Jackson State. I saw list of people who going in the transfer portal. Do you have a complete list yet?
Oh man, I have like a list. Some like I know the bigger names, but I mean, man, there's like man, it's over 1,000 FCS players in the portal. But I mean, I got a good
But I'm talking
idea.
about Jackson State.
Oh, Jackson State. I know.
Yeah.
Dallas, Mercier.
Yeah, I saw Dallas going pro.
Yeah, Mercier's going pro. Tyler Brown's in the portal. The offensive tackle who was a first team all SWAC, he's in the portal with 2 years of eligibility. Willis Patrick's gone. I don't remember if he is going to the draft or the portal. I know Katron's already committed to Charlotte. Big Country's in the portal. I'm trying to think who Shiloh and Shador, of course, are both in the portal.
Right. I knew they were.
I heard Kevin's gone. Even though there's a bunch of reports that he's staying, I heard Kevin's gone.
Yeah, that's what we heard last night, that his parents wanted him to stay.
I know what his parents want, but I've heard that he's gone. And yeah, Zay and Nugget also went pro.
Right, that's right. I heard Zay and okay, now here's the big one. Please tell me that TC is not going to get his homeboys, but he's going to get some good people. What have you heard as far as the people on his staff?
I haven't heard anything about his staff. I heard Weeks is probably staying, and
as defense coordinator.
Possibly, I was told it's a possible thing. And then there's a coach from. Oh man, I just got told last night where the coach is from.
He's pro or is he college?
No, if I'm not mistaken, they went and got the D-line coach from Alcorn State. They haven't announced it yet, but I heard that's who they're going to bring in for the D-line.
Okay, so you hadn't heard anything on offense coordinator?
No, nothing like that. Okay.
Well, that's what because I keep telling people have been calling me, asking me, is it over for Jackson State? I told them, hell no. All you got to do is get a solid staff. Them people gonna come to Jackson. That's the middle of the SWAC. You got the 60,000 seat stadium. You got 7,000-8,000 students. You in the capital city. People coming to Jackson. My main thing is don't do that stuff that Dooley pulled down there at Southern. I just don't do that. Don't go getting somebody because you played with them and you know they cousin and all that stuff. I ain't got time for that. I need some quality people. Because like I told him before, if he goes and get quality people, they can continue to dominate the SWAC. But now if he going to do this homeboy stuff, they're going to have a problem. Okay? Listen, so now you're on Wednesday at 8 o'clock, right?
It might not be 8. I got to get the times down, but I'll make an announcement. But it'll be sometime in the morning, pretty much all day running through.
Now you're going to do everybody, or are you going to basically do the HBCUs? What's the schedule looking like?
I'll probably do just about everyone. Like I'll probably announce all the big ones, but I mean I'll make a focus on whatever people want to talk about. But I mean it'll be a large SWAC and MEAC focus though.
Well, do me a favor now. If you hear anything about who's going to be on TC staff, please hold that so you can tell me, because that's what's important. I need to know who's going to be on that staff. And by the way, has anybody heard anything about Eddie Robinson trying to get a offensive coordinator over there at Alabama State? Or is he going to still go with that little league offensive coordinator? What? Anybody heard anything?
He hasn't fired anybody, so.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what about Dooley? No changes down there at Southern?
Not from what I've heard.
Listen, Blue, y'all have a good day. Wait a minute. Blue, did you have a question?
No, I think that's it, Mr. Ford. I appreciate you calling in.
And let me ask you this question. Now, I used to keep up with Stanford because of I started keeping up with them when Harbaugh had the program. Harbaugh left, and then they gave it to what's his name? David? What was the guy's name at
David Shaw.
David Shaw. Okay, so this is what I want to ask you now. This guy that's coming in from Sacramento State, is he going to turn around Stanford? What do you think?
Man, he's a winner. I mean, he was on a 21 game conference winning streak in the Big Sky and won like
Uh
3
huh.
straight Big Sky titles. He didn't have a
Uh
lot
huh.
of success in the playoffs, but he's always been a winner. I'm excited to see what Troy Taylor could do. He's been due for an opportunity, and it's just
Uh
going to
huh.
come down to how well he recruits. Because the problem with Stanford is you can't really utilize a transfer portal because of the academic standards.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what he could do there. But he developed players really, really well at Sac State, which is why I think they went with him, is because you got to have a coach that knows how to recruit from the high school level.
Okay. Okay. Listen, Blue. Y'all have a good night. Okay.
Appreciate you, Mr. Ford.
All right. Bye bye.
All right, we got a bunch of callers. I'm getting to all of y'all. 5807, you're live.
Hey, what's up, Blue?
What's good, man?
Hey, man. I know Aubrey said in the post-game press conference that he was missing some of his guys on the D line. Do you know which players did not play last night?
Niles Gaddy was the biggest one. He didn't play, and Katron was in the transfer portal. Griff's Big Country was in the transfer portal, and if I'm not mistaken, there was another defensive tackle who was in the transfer portal.
So did that mess up their rotation on the D line? Were they
Yeah,
just
for
playing
sure.
with
I
just
talked about that earlier. I think the biggest strength for Jackson State defensively is their ability to rotate a bunch of players, and the fact they didn't have that depth really wore on them late in the game because they weren't as
yeah,
fresh as they're used to and didn't have as many bodies as they're used to. And I think that did play a factor. And I think with Central being so strong on the offensive line, they were able to take advantage of it. And then Jeremiah Brown was an idiot and got himself ejected, which took even more depth away from
all
him.
right,
So there was just a lot of factors that, I mean, Jackson State really shot themselves in the foot.
all right, man. Thanks, bro.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
5580, you're live.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, man. What's good?
Coach Stu here. Yeah, I want to add on to what was said about the situation in Colorado and his son. Yeah, the kind of word I'm kind of getting is that some of the money people and ESPN, some of them, they feel like he's making money that they should be making money off of, and that he's an independent contractor that they didn't hire. And some of the other people were saying they didn't like the look because they thought it was turning more like a H, more like one of the historical black colleges than what the look of Colorado should look like. Some of the people are questioning the music in the locker room and all like that. So they basically are just kind of letting him know that he is an employee now of Colorado, and he's going to have to follow their kind of norms and things like this here, and bringing Neely and all these other people and his other entourage is not really welcome around there. What do you think?
I mean, I think the only person that they didn't approve was his son being the main media guy, because you got to think, look, there's been a lot of talk on Jackson State channels and Jackson State media that Jackson State didn't make any money. Like, although all the well-off media and everything like that, they didn't make any money off of that. Jackson doesn't own any of that content. They weren't able to do any of that stuff. And if you think Colorado is going to let just Prime bring a whole media team in here and all that and not own any of the content, you're crazy. Man, there's no way they're going to let people make money off the school and they not profit. It was
Right.
it was business. Man, I'm telling you, the P5 schools, it's about the bottom dollar. And if you think Colorado is going to let well-off media come in there and make money off their back, crazy.
I didn't think so.
No, because why would you? Because Jackson State shouldn't have. To be honest with you, Jackson State got absolutely screwed because of that. I mean, how many views did highlights on that channel get that should have been on the Jackson State channel? I mean, how many more subscribers and views did all these other media channels that weren't owned by Jackson State make compared to the Jackson State channel? How much money did Jackson State miss making because of that?
Right. Yeah. Thank you for your opinion.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
Hey,
4019, you're live.
Hey, what's going on, bro?
What's good?
I'm good. So definitely, in addition to Hagler, I feel for Niles Gatti. I mean, I don't know him personally, but he seems like he's a good kid. Seems like you probably know him better than I do. Seems like he put in the work and everything, and for him not to get an opportunity at the biggest stage, I really feel for him. And I hope he's okay, because I know he would have been able to like contribute to the team. Doesn't mean that they would have won, but I know he would have contributed to the team.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about one of the most impactful players that they've had this year, especially off the edge. Look, I can't talk because I know firsthand what happened, because everyone knows I have a relationship with the Gaddies. I knew about the suspension the night after me and Scotty recorded the roundtable last week. And I'm trying to, describe what happened without getting into too many details. There was something that happened after graduation that, like, in terms of family, personal life, that Niles had to handle. And there was a lot of traveling. Like, I mean, he drove all night, and there was some things he had to handle off campus. Well, when he got back, this is exactly why he was suspended. He was putting his bags on the bus. Prom moved the meeting up 30 plus minutes without telling everybody. Well, an assistant coach told Niles to go put his bags on the bus. He goes to put the bags on the bus. Prom starts the meeting, and he gets back like 1 minute late, and he gets suspended.
I mean, come on. Really?
And then on top of that,
what are we talking? What are we talking about?
Oh, and it gets better. Prom didn't want Niles to travel. The assistant coaches, the D-line coach and everyone called Niles. He was not on the plane. They called Niles to come get him to the plane. At walkthrough, Prom cusses Niles out in front of the team for being there after the coaches told him to be there.
I mean, what are we really talking about, man? I mean, if you're gonna say you're building men up, I mean, you got to be consistent. Come on now. At the end of the day, this is a young man, and again, you have a relationship with him. I don't, but he seems like a reasonable guy. I mean, just from me just following him, and the fact of the matter is, it's not like he doesn't seem like an irresponsible person. And you got to base certain decisions on the character of a person and you have to look at their track record. And if this thing happened and you're building men up, you got to look at the character of the person. Be like, you know what? This guy's character doesn't tell me that he is doing something, foolish to come late for this meeting or whatever the case is. I mean, come on, man. I love Prime. I do. But as a man of God, grace is also an important part of stuff. It's all about balance. I really felt for Niles, man. I mean, obviously I feel for Hagler. Don't get me wrong, but, we talked about that. I really felt for that guy. Like, I was like, man, this guy's not there. I mean, and not only that, and I'm going to be short. I know you have other callers, but this thing really hit me. Not only that, but he could have been there for his brothers, his teammates, and I'm almost certain that also had an impact on the rest of the defense with the front seven. I'm almost certain about that on the D line. That had an impact.
And I want to say, like, people are freaking out, bro. I just said, he might not have, he called him out in front of the team, regardless if he cursed. I don't know what exactly was said, but listen, he's fair. I mean, listen, if anyone's late, they get suspended. So it is what it is. It's just, bro, come on. I'm extremely,
Listen. I'm just gonna say this real quick, right? Okay, if anyone is late, they get suspended. Okay, fine. I get it. But life, I mean, he should know this. Life is not black and white. It's not 100% absolute. Yes, you have a rule, but you also have to look at the character of the person and be like, hey, man, I mean, what if, God forbid, someone in his family was sick or something, and he had to go visit or whatever the case is, and he came back a minute late. Like, you would suspend him for something like that? I mean, you got to look at the situation as well, too. That stuff really pissed me off, man. It really does. And I hope that Coach Prime reflects on it and say, you know what, that's something I wish I could have had back, because, it really impacted me, and I hope that Niles is okay, and I hope that TC is really, just uplifting him up, and hopefully he comes back better and stronger. That's all I have to say, man, because that really affected me, man.
hey, no, you're good, man. Hey, appreciate you calling.
All right.
And I will say, I mean, listen, it does happen all the time, and Prime's consistent. My thing, the biggest thing for me is if an assistant coach told you to do something and then the head coach suspended you for it, I'd be pissed. It's not like he missed the meeting because he was out doing some BS stuff. I mean, bro, if I went and did something another coach told me to do and then the head coach suspended me, oh, I'd be pissed. For my last game for the bowl game, I'd be out of there too. He ain't making me stay playing for you. Come on, man. That's outrageous. Like, that's the key to the whole thing, is that the assistant coach let him take the bullet for him being told to go do something. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. I'm with y'all that it happens all the time, but the fact that an assistant coach told him to go put his bag on the bus, that's crazy to me. But hey, it is what it is. I mean, 3202, you're live.
What's up, Blue? Can you hear me? It's Steve.
Hey, what's good, man?
Good. Well, I can say thank you so much for this wonderful season you covered, man. I wish I hope you get paid in dividends, man. But I just want to talk about the refereeing at the Celebration Bowl. I watched it, and it was horrible, man. Did you know what conference did that game as far as the referees?
I think it was the MAC, wasn't it?
The MAC or the MEAC?
No, the MAC, like MAC, like the FBS conference.
Yeah, where Ohio and Akron plays at?
Yeah.
Okay. And also, Blue, I don't know if you put out your All-American team yet, but if you give me a spoiler, is Isaiah Lamb making it? I know he missed about 4 games. There's 3 or 4 games this year, but he had about 7.5 sacks and 11 tackles for loss.
No, he's not on the All-American list. Not even considered. 0 chance.
I understand. But that's all I want to say, Blue. But thank you so much for a great season, man, for real. Shout out to Mr. Campbell, Mr. Ford, all script, everybody, man.
Hey, appreciate you calling in, man.
All right, peace.
Hang on, I gotta address one comment. And Anonymous, I'm getting to you next. Listen, people get so mad at the wrong people. Everyone asked me what I heard happen. I told y'all what happened, and y'all mad at me. Don't be mad at me for y'all asking me the question and me giving y'all the answer. So if you are upset at anybody, either be upset at your coach or be upset at your player. I was not in Jackson. I didn't have anything to do with it. Y'all asked me what happened, and I told y'all what I was told happened. So there it is. He was suspended. Jackson State lost. Keep the main thing the main thing. How about that? Anonymous, you're live.
Hey, Blue, this is Steve. Hello?
Anonymous,
Hello?
you're live.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, so that's not hearsay. I actually heard that yesterday from another reporter or journalist that he was suspended for a bag or something like that. So that's not hearsay. That's actually proven. The other thing I was going to say is that is totally ridiculous for a player to be suspended for their bowl game on their senior year to not play because they put a bag on it. I would absolutely try to get that rectified. I mean, I don't even know. You can't get your senior game back, but that's for a national championship. That's pretty stupid. I never heard of somebody being suspended for being 1 minute late for a meeting. Overall, I was going to say also that JSU, I think, did a good job. I don't think their defense showed up, but they overall did. It was a knock 'em out game. The last one with the ball scored. So I think that actually was one of the best college games I watched this whole year, out of FBS, FCS, D2, whatever. That was like one of the best college games. Where would you rank that, Blue?
Like for this year or all time?
I guess both. But first, the just this year, that was definitely one of the better games I've seen this year. Besides LSU and Georgia, and Alabama.
All right, so the Celebration Bowl. Oh God. I think the Celebration Bowl was a top 3 game, right? I think so because I mean, last week. Let me tell you, the best game of the year. I know people are biased, bro. The Incarnate Wars Sac State game last week. It was the best game of the year. I mean, has an argument to be one of the best FCS games ever. So I would say top 3 easily.
Yeah, I think definitely top 3. Now with the Sac State game, I didn't see it. When I seen it was a high scoring. Did it go to overtime?
No, I don't think it went to overtime, but there was like 50 something points scored in the fourth quarter.
Jesus.
In
Only
a,
in the
in a
fourth
last
quarter?
minute Hail Mary, and I think it Sac State lost the game, and they had like 700 yards of offense, and it was. I'm telling you, if you haven't went, you could just try to go find. I think there's a replay on like ESPN Plus. If you have it, you could just type it in and watch it. The Incarnate Word Sac State game was one of the greatest games I've ever watched as a college football fan. It was just
Mm.
a, a, a master class of football, man. It would make if you have a game to show people, show them that game to make them fall in love with college football.
Wow, I just seen the score. I didn't know that it was that back and forth. What would you rank number 2 then?
I mean, you can make a debate for the Celebration Bowl, and that Holy Cross Fordham game earlier this year was just insane. And I'm just thinking about like FCS games. I mean, there could be some FBS games that I'm thinking about, but the Holy Cross Fordham game earlier this year was outrageous as well. I mean, that one went into overtime too, and they won it on a double reverse. Like they tried to run like a double reverse like Philly special, and instead of throwing it, the wide receiver ran it in instead. Yeah, it was
Wow.
insane too. So I think those will probably be the top 3 games that I've seen this year.
Yeah, I would go 1. The only reason why I haven't. I got to be honest. I didn't watch that whole UI and Sacramento State. Is that the name of the team, Sacramento State?
Yeah, Sac State.
Yeah, I seen the score. I didn't see the whole game. But this one, the only reason with the celebration, it was at the moments that the plays happened. Like that Travis Hunter play was just insane. That like hardly ever happens with 5 seconds left on the clock. Hail Mary to send it to overtime. The fumble, the punt return. It was just like nonstop action in this game. But I would go with Celebration Bowl number 2, LSU that lost. Or was that Tennessee? No, that was LSU, correct? That beat
Yeah.
Alabama at home.
Yeah, LSU Alabama was a hell of a game too. I won't lie. And
Yeah, I will put that too.
the Bama Tennessee
And then,
game too was a
yeah,
hell of a
that's
game.
what I was going to say. Was that Tennessee and who else?
It was Tennessee and Bama when they won on the last minute field goal. That's when Jalen Hyatt went for like 5 touchdowns on 6 catches.
I will put the LSU game above that one. And I did not see the Fordham game, so I can't speak on that one. But this is definitely one of the better bowl games I've ever seen. And the last thing I was going to ask you, if you were a starting lineman at Jackson State, like I think you said Tyler Brown's leaving, would you transfer out or would you give TC another shot? And I'm going to punch out.
It just depends. I think it would depend on your relationship with the incoming defensive coordinator or defensive line coach. I can't speak for anyone. It also depends on what their draft stock is, what offers they potentially could get in the transfer portal, everything like that. I mean, I don't know what TC is pitching everybody, but I just think it would be a case by case basis, and what your relationship with TC and your relationship with the defensive staff that he is going to bring in, that would play more into my decision than anything. And appreciate you, Rennie. I agree. I heard him last night talk about it too, so I knew it was good information. But man, I'll probably 15 more minutes, man, taking calls 701-779-9585 if you want to call in. But man, we're recapping everything that happened this weekend. Also, if you were not here at the beginning, I potentially am going to have head coach Trey Oliver on the show this week to talk about the Celebration Bowl win. Offensive coordinator Matt Leone is probably going to stop back by as well. Wednesday, me and Scotty doing a full day National Signing Day live stream talking. I'll be, bringing the FCS information, of course, but me and Scotty will be focusing on the SWAC and MEAC, bringing in some talent on National Signing Day. It's going to be a huge live stream, to say the least. And then I'll kind of let y'all know about some interviews I got coming up later. Also, All-American team will be coming out this week. I'll probably do a live stream for that. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And let's just say this: I think there's 4 MEAC players on the All-American team and 4, maybe 5 SWAC players on the All-American team for the FCS. So just to kind of give y'all a little teaser about who those guys potentially are. And Jordan just put out here, Herman Smith enters the transfer portal. Let's see, I think he just DM'd it to me. Yeah, Herman Smith put out his tweet that he will be entering the transfer portal with 2 to 3 years of eligibility left. I'm imagining that he's going to make a distinction on how many years he has left. And then also Coach Shad also just tweeted out his not apology, but his departure from Jackson State. So Coach Shad is also out of here at Jackson State. That's 2 big losses already. Let's see. If JSU didn't go for 2, do you think they would have won? I don't know if they would have won. There's so many other things that would have happened if they would have went for 2, that would have just meant Central went for 2 on one of their touchdowns. 2-3-8-8. You're live.
What's going on, Blues Double T?
What's good, man?
Hey, did you see Lindsey Scott throw that fumbled on the 2? Like, he basically gave that in the North Dakota game away. What do you think?
Both interceptions were terrible. Horrible.
Terrible.
Because the second one, I don't know. Okay, I can't speak for him, but I think he thought it was either a later down or less time on the clock. Like, he thought that was like a do or die situation when it wasn't, man. He could have hit the check down and they could have lived to fight another day. The first interception, I think it got away from him. It kind of turned into a duck. Dawson Weber broke on it, and I do not know what Darian Chafin was doing on the outside. It seemed like he didn't come back inside and try to fight for the ball. I don't know if the NDSU corner did a better job than I'm assuming boxing him out, but Darian Chafin is a big dude, and I just have a hard time thinking he got boxed out like that. And I don't know exactly what happened, but it just seemed to die on Lindsey Scott when most of his deep balls are perfect. It just got away from him.
Yeah, because nobody was there. It was just the North Dakota DB back there, safety back there to pick it off. And did you see when he fumbled on the 2 yard line? He fumbled the ball too.
Yeah, that was I don't know what was going on with the center. There were multiple times where he got snaps before he was ready. I don't know what the miscommunication was about, but there were a few times where they snapped in awkward spots for him. And I do think, like, man, the turnovers came in the worst times because everyone talks about the fumble, but man, the turnovers cost them that game because you get the ball back, you take 3 points away from NDSU early because you don't get the ball at the 1 yard line. Then you get another turnover inside the red zone where
Terrible.
you lose points on the board. And on top of that, there were 3 drives inside North Dakota State territory where they got no points because of either turnovers or they went for it on 4th down and didn't get it. It's like if they would have just taken the points when they had the points in their hands, they would have won. And I can't, hindsight's 2020. I'm not going to fault GJ Kinney because he's coached like that all year. It was just in that situation, in my opinion, maybe I'm conservative.
Mm-hmm.
You always take the points early in the game, especially in the first half, because you can't predict what's going to happen in the second. Going forward on 4th down in the red zone early in the game, to me, is putting everything on the line because down the stretch, throughout college ball history, they've always came to bite you in the ass. You have to get the points, especially against North Dakota State in the Fargo Dome. If they just take the points, that thing is like 20 something, 24, 25 to nothing in the first quarter.
Yeah. I
So,
definitely agree with you on the first half.
I get it.
The second thing, did Incarnate Word say anything about a new coach yet? I mean, who they replaced
Yeah,
him?
they promoted. Hang on, let me make sure I get his name right. They promoted the wide receivers coach. Let me get his name. Hang on. He's like 29, bro. He's like one of the youngest coaches in the country. Hang on, let me see if I can find his name. They tweeted out a bunch of stuff. They announced it right before the game. Clint, I believe it's Kill. It was like Clint
Did he
Killiu
come
or
over
something
from
like that.
Florida?
Do what?
Did he come over from Central Florida with the head coach?
I believe so.
And just one other thing. Can you believe South Dakota stomped Montana State like that?
No. Come on, man. I cannot believe they beat them like that. Because I mean, Montana State's run the ball on everyone, and South Dakota State struggled so much last week to stop Matthew Solka in that run game for Holy Cross. And I thought Montana State had just as good of an offensive line. And I mean, I guess it speaks to how good Solka is, but man, Montana State just got abused on the offensive line. It was
I caught the
insane.
game late. They was already down like 15.
Well, they hit the big pass with Tucker Craft. Montana State gets the Sean Chambers touchdown. They missed the extra point, and then after that, Isaiah Afonso and Amir Johnson just went crazy for them. And once Sean Chambers got hurt, I think the wheels started falling off for Montana State. And on top of that, what was happening is those 2 D tackles, Winkleman and Sanders, were eating up the interior of the offensive line. And since it was so snowy and icy, the fact that it was making Malott, Afonso, those running backs make quick cuts in the backfield, they consistently lost their balance and couldn't get any momentum moving forward, and it just ate them alive all day long.
Jeez. All right, Blue. Good show, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Appreciate my guy T calling in. Man, taking a few last calls, 701-779-9585. Yes, Miles Crawley committed to Grambling. His dad is a Grambling alum, if I'm not mistaken. And Miles grew up going to a bunch of the Bayou Classics, a bunch of just Grambling events. Like, I believe his dad is a big time alum for Grambling. And what I was told by some people at Grambling is that this was kind of like a done deal as soon as he entered the transfer portal. I mean, Jackson State was top 10 all year. Jeff, I mean, Jackson State's been top 10 pretty much all season long. Now, I will say, if you're a Jackson State fan, do not get excited for the top 25 to end the season. Do not be excited because Jackson State is going to absolutely tank in the rankings. Jackson State will not be top 15 in the final rankings this season. Just going to throw that out there. Zero chance. I'm just going to let you know they are going to absolutely tank in the rankings. I'm just preparing you guys. I'll release mine so y'all know where I rank everybody. I haven't even started working on mine. Jackson State is not going to be top 10 in the final rankings. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm just preparing you guys for the worst. It is not going to happen. I just want to, I'm always honest with y'all on this channel. It's not going to happen. Is it true Travis Hunter is in Colorado tonight? I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, you're talking about Chad. Isn't it Chad Morris's son? I forgot his first name. It's Morris. Was the starting quarterback this year for TCU. He got hurt and Duggan took over, and well Dugan, or I don't know if it's Dugan or Duggan, but he's entered the draft, and the Morris kid is coming back. I want to say it's Chandler Morris, but I could be wrong. But I know his last name is Morris. Their offensive game plan was based on Sean Chambers being in there, but it was Bobcat defense. They gave him no chance, man. The defense looked atrocious. I was shocked. JSU would get blown out by one of the top 5 and would be in one of the top 10. Let's see. Brookins is on the way back from Fargo from Texas. If NDSU wins, 30K by cents. We're leaving bison signs on the highway. Oh. Let's see. I'm just talking about like the postseason rankings there, and I'm not talking about the preseason rankings. The preseason, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know how people are necessarily going to vote in that, but I don't know about that one. I don't think it'll be Ed Reed. Listen, I'll say this. I've talked about it a little bit. I heard A&T already has their guy. It's just a matter of when they're going to announce it. That's what Dr. Cavill said too, and I trust Dr. Cavill on a lot of the reporting for just HBCU football in general. But I really do think they got to go get a proven coach. I mean, you can't take a risk and hire a celebrity coach going into the CAA the first year. You need a coach who can take you, compete in that conference, and compete for an FCS playoff spot, man. You cannot take a risk on a celebrity hire that may bring you some great commits and great players, but can't coach a league, and you just get absolutely run through in the CAA. You just can't happen. A&T has to have a coach that has some experience at the highest level, and that's going to be really interesting. I don't see them going out and getting a celebrity coach. Zero chance on that, in my opinion. Now, Khalil, the only one I really have any info on is do not be surprised if Valley goes and gets Sam Washington. Sam Washington just got fired from North Carolina A&T. Valley grad. I would not be surprised if Valley goes and gets Sam Washington. But in terms of the other two, I have not heard anything on their coaching searches. Let's see. NCCU JSU shows the important. Man, I love it. Offensive line. Yes, and hit the like button just because y'all tuned into the channel. But yes, because the season is over, hit the like button too, because I'm upset about it. I don't know who the guy is, but Dr. Ville said he was confident that they had somebody. No, I ain't got nothing on the BCU coach. I need to reach out to some people because I do have some guys with BCU contacts, but I will I'll let y'all know on the live stream Wednesday with Scotty, who I hear is rumored to be interviewing for that one. I do got some BCU guys I can talk to. Is the one very defensive coach. That would be my suggestion. If I'm A&T, I'm going to get him immediately. He has experience coaching at Howard, HBCUs. He's a Valley guy. Go get a guy that is part of HBCU culture and also has success in the CAA. I don't see why you wouldn't give him a shot. Yes, Russell. I saw the MEAC play multiple times this year, but I want to go to a Central home game. I really want to get up to a Morgan State game next year, and I want to go see South Carolina State in Orangeburg. So there's a few there's a few stadiums in the MEAC I want to go see. I also want to go to a Howard game too. I want to see what that's like. So I got a few on my list. Okay, apparently Cam is in the transfer portal. We'll see on that one. Yeah, Chandler Morris. There you go. I knew it was something like that. I'm gonna take this last caller, man, and get out of here. 7120. You're live.
Yes. I was just calling about A&T letting Sam Washington go. I think the frustration was with all the unnecessary personal foul penalties, reacting to trash talk, and they commit a penalty right in front of the referee. Yeah, that's undisciplined. If it wasn't for those penalties like that, there's some games A&T could have won. They could have won the Central game. They could have won the Gardner-Webb game, but just stupid penalties killed some of their drives.
Yeah, I know. I've talked to some A&T people. They just, based on what everyone called in, yet the other show one was talking about is that they just didn't understand why you would want to transition with a new name. Why not give Sam 1 year after he was one game away from winning the Big South? Why not give him 1 year to see what he can do in the CAA? So
I agree with them. If it was me, I would have given them that year, given them the whole staff a pay raise, and I would have given them another year. But I guess you had all the rumbling, with the alumni upset with the, undisciplined play of the team. And I mean, like Gardner-Webb. We were driving, and offensive lineman, this was a play out of bounds. Offensive lineman pushed the kid for Gardner-Webb. The referee let him get away with it. Then he pushed him again. And here's the flag. Now we at the Gardner-Webb 35. It's just stupid stuff, but I agree. I would have given him another year. And you're talking about offensive lines. A&T's offensive line was tough. They were real good. And when our guys didn't talk trash, they played ball. Like in the second half against Campbell, they didn't do any trash talking, and they went to work. But when games where they got caught up in the trash talk against Central, they talking trash from the jump. That's when those stupid penalties come in, and that's what killed.
Hey, I appreciate the insight, man. I appreciate you calling in.
Thanks.
All right, man. Shutting down the call lines. Let's see. But man, listen, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Real quick for Sam, it's still going on. They announced the official conference schedules on, I think last week. If you go to the OVC or Big South website, they have the entire conference schedule and how the matchups are going to work out. So you can go check it out there. But yeah, that's still going on next season. And I'm interested to see if there's some really, really good matchups that I really want to see. So I'm glad they did it. Both conferences really needed some help at this point. Now the ASUN and WAC are on the clock because I still think once Kennesaw, Sam Houston, Jacksonville State, all these teams that are getting ready to leave, they're going to have to figure something out. That'll be the next two conferences, and I'm really curious to see what they do. But listen, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. National Signing Day coverage on Wednesday. Potential interview with Trey Oliver, Matt Leone coming later this week as well. A lot of content. All-American teams drop tomorrow. Check that on the website, thebluebloodspod.com. But until next time, guys, the Blue Bloods are out.